So I've done the unwrap now, but I've not actually used Zbrush, so I will be actually avoiding that. I actually did an unwrap in Maya. I was finding that the unwraps that Zbrush was giving me were completely unusable, and it wasn't giving me the quality that I really needed. So I did go into Maya and actually produce my own unwraps, which aren't the neatest, but for this case, again, it's just to show you what you can do. So it's exported my model out and it's now on the desktop. So now I'm actually going to overwrite this current subtool, which is the low res seams color there, with the new one. So if I have that selected there and go to import, I can then go find my overwrite, which is, I know it's that, bring that in, and now that is my new unwrap. So if I go to flatten, there's my unwrap with all my seams and stuff. Okay, so at this stage what we're going to do is actually take this model, up the res a little bit, and then project that information onto the higher res model, or to be more correct, project the high res information onto the low res model. So we've got our high res there with all our features, and we've got our low res with very little features. So if I go to geometry, I will start to subdivide this, and you can see these numbers here in active and total points are going to go right down. So divide, oh, go up should I say. So I'm going to take that to about 5. That'll give me a lot of information there. And you can see that we've lost all our really nice detail that we had in there. So we've lost that mouth, we've lost the eyes, we've lost the nose, we've lost any sort of definition on the body, and we've got a much more softer character. So what we're going to do now is actually project the higher res information onto the low res information. So with my low res selected, I'm going to just make sure that I can see both the objects, so the higher res and the lower res. The dark grey section here is actually the higher res version, just overlapping. So you can see that the lower res versions are just sticking through. So now in the subtool, I'm going to go down to project, and then I'm just going to hit project all. And this is another thing that I'm just going to pause the video, click, and then just let it run, because this will take a long time. The lower RAM you have in your system, the longer it'll take. The higher poly count you have, so the minute we've got more or less 5 million polys, the longer it'll take as well. What's actually going on at this stage is the mesh, and we need to have both these actually visible, because if I hide the high res version, you can see that projectile is now turned off, because what it will do is it will take the subtool you have selected, and then it's going to look for whatever else is visible in the scene. So in this case it's the high res model, and then it's going to just take each one of those vertex points and look for its nearest neighbour on another piece of geometry, in this case our high res version, and then it's just going to start to sarang wrap, like cling film itself around the model. So at this stage you can see that it's got these very thick white lines. When I reproject this, you'll see that it'll become very spotty, almost like it's got a skin condition, or almost like a noise map, a very, very dense noise map on his surface. That would mean that now the mesh is taking all the information from the high res version, and we've just projected that onto the low res version, even though at this stage we are at a very high res because we've subdivided 4 times. And remember, we need to have our model unwrapped at this stage. We can't have models that are unwrapped that aren't unwrapped at this stage, because then we need to take the information off a normal map. So I'm just going to project all now, and then I'm going to pause the video, click project all, and then we'll get back to you after that. So you can see here that he's now very, very dense, and you can see that it's just bit of an awkward like thing to look at now. So what's happened is the low res has now pushed itself, it's modelled itself around the high res version. So if you turn off the high res version now, our low res version is looking very, very nice. But if we turn on our wireframe, you can see that this is actually our low res version. Obviously it's got the subdivisions in there, but you can see by the edge flow that this is our low res version. So you could take something in here, sculpt it, and then either do your Z-remesher. Now in the Z-remesher I noticed a few problems. It actually made spirals around the legs, so these lines actually go around down the entire leg, which obviously isn't great, and same for the arm, just going down the entire arm. Now that's probably down to how I actually put my guidelines in, but if you took the high res version, decimated it, took a version, decimated it, so it's very, very low poly, or at least low density, and then took that into another piece of software to then, I don't know, do your retopolization, or put a very basic, or you know, do another model over the top of it, however you want to do it. If you make something which is the same overall shape of this, you can then do this and you can get all this information baked down onto a low res version, which is great. So now that that's actually been projected down, or projected up I should say, onto our low res version, you can see here we take the subdivisions down to 1. That's our low res version. You can even see there that it's really taken that form really well. Cool. Now this is a bit weird. We can now access our normal maps, and we can actually take our normal maps away from this, but we can't take it while we're on the highest subdivision level. We need to take it from the lowest subdivision level. So if we set inside geometry on the right, if we set our division down to 1, and then scroll further down our menu, we're going to find normal map down here, and then in there we've got tangent, which we want to leave on, adaptive, we don't want to do that, smooth UVs and smooth normals, we definitely want those because we don't want the normal map to have every polygon on there. We don't want that information to come through. Now I've been told by reliable sources to flip the green channel, so I always make sure to flip the green channel. Now what will happen is it will give us a map which is upside down, so we will have to go into Photoshop and then flip it vertically, and that doesn't mean rotate it, it means actually flipping it. So inside our normal map, tangent, UV, smooth, use smooth normals, flip G, I'm going to click create normal map. Now very quickly this is going to create our normal map, which will appear here. There we go. So if you hover over there you can see our body. It's normal map. Very nice. So actually to get this out and exportable, we need to take it over to our texture palette over here. And the way we do that is by still on this normal map window, or this normal map menu, we go to clone NM, and clone NM just means clone normal map, and that will send it over to our texture palette. And from there, with it highlighted, I can go down to export, and then I can export it as a PSD, JPEG, PNG, BMP, TIFF. So I'm actually going to export this as a JPEG. I'm going to call this body underscore N for normal. Save that out, and that's just going to give me a look at what I've done sort of thing. There are some little horrible things that will crop up in places where it's kind of struggling just to render something, but hopefully that's going to be in places where we won't actually see it. It'll be like outside the UV. Okay, so click OK, and now that's been sent to our desktop. So now I'm going to open up Photoshop, and then I'm going to flip it, and then I'm going to open up Unreal, and then I'm going to get everything exported. There's still a couple of stages to go. If we were to export this model and take it right into the engine, we're going to get all this faceting, all this very hard edge here. We're going to get all that coming through. So what we need to do is export this, take this into Maya. Well, in fact, I've already got my version here with all my normals. So I can take this version of my model, smooth all the normals on this, so that it goes from being a very hard edged surface model to a very soft model. So you can see there on the right, on the left is our original import, and on the right is our new one, which we're going to take into Unreal. Okay, so let's go through the processes of that. So back to ZBrush. In here, I've already exported my normal map texture. I'm going to go up to export, making sure that I've got my low res version selected with the lowest subdivision level, and then I'm going to go to export. I'm going to export this as just body G for geometry. You don't have to do that, that's just because I've probably got a lot of different body OBJs on my desktop, so I'm just going to put underscore G just to make sure that I know which one's which. So I'm going to export that, and I'm going to pretend that I've not got this here, so get rid of you, and inside a Maya project I'm going to just bring this so you can all see it. There we go. Oh. There we go. So inside a Maya project I'm going to new scene, just for the purposes of showing you. New scene, import, find my body, which is body G, and bring that in. So here is my model that I brought in from ZBrush. Now I'm going to do a couple of things inside Maya. I'm going to smooth all the normals, so with my object selected I'm going to check my... Oh, have we just got a crash? Oh, we've got a crash. Awesome. So I'll reopen Maya because that was a bit horrible, and I will bring it back when that's done. So here we are. We had a bit of a crash there for some reason, but this is the model I brought in from ZBrush. It's got all my UVs laid out, which I did. Obviously they're not pretty. I just did it for speed. This is where I came across the issue with the topology not being great. If this was a lower resolution model as well, I would have a much better time dealing with this, but obviously you will need to spend a lot more time doing that on yours. So knowing that my UVs are laid out, I'm going to go in, select my model, mesh display, and then soften edge so that everything's nice and smooth. And then what I'm going to do, and this is something you need to do, is I'm actually going to make this guy bigger. I'm going to stand him on the floor, I'm going to make him bigger, and I'm going to lie him on his, I think it's his front. When I take this into Unreal, I'm going to lie him on his front, because Unreal takes a different axis orientation. The y-axis is forward and the z-axis is upwards. So yeah, I think I'd need to flip him on so he's on his stomach, but we'll do that last. So we've smoothed the normals, so we're going to move him up now, and we're going to actually position the manipulator at the bottom of the foot. There we go, so he's stood on top of the world, and I'm going to make him bigger. Now remember that these are all centimetres, each one of these squares. There we go. Each one of these squares is a centimetre. So at the minute he's 3 centimetres high, and inside Unreal this is going to be absolutely minuscule, super small. So I'm actually going to reset my world to be in feet. Hopefully we all remember how to do this. Yeah, a few issues with Maya today for some reason. So now I'm going to make this guy 6 foot tall. So he's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 feet tall. There we go. Very nice. Very nice. So now I can, I need to delete all this information here. So I need to freeze the transformation, and I need to take away all this transform information here, delete history, boom. So now that's our very tall model ready to go into the engine and have its UV map applied. So I'm going to export this, and I'm going to overwrite the body G I've got on the desktop. Yes, I want to replace that one. So now that one's the model that we're going to take in. And now I'm going to bounce up both Unreal and Photoshop because I'm very close to actually getting stuff into Unreal, so I'll just open up these and I'll bring the video back in a minute. So now we've got Photoshop opened here. I'm going to navigate, open up and bring in my null map, my body N. There we go. So like I said, I need to actually flip this vertically because at the minute it's flipped the wrong way, so I'm just going to do that by duplicating a layer, Control T to get my transform, right clicking and going to flip vertically, so then my head's down here. Cool. So that's ready to go. I can just save that out as a JPEG and overwrite my body N. Yes, I want to overwrite that. Maximum. Cool, so that's ready to go. So now what's left is actually making my scene. So I'm just going to make a first person, I'll make a blank scene. You know, you can basically leave all this stuff where it is. I'm just going to call this a body test. Hopefully we're all kind of getting to grips with how to use Unreal now, so we'll just wait for this to load up. It takes a bit of time. And there we go. So I'm just going to actually make this fit the workspace that I'm working on in a minute. And there we go. Good. So this is our game scene we've got here. I just like using the default 2-chair scene because it's got a nice lighting system inside it with some nice reflection balls, some spherical reflection stuff going on. So now I want to actually bring my things into the scene. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make everything inside the content browser down here. So right clicking, I'm going to go to folder and I'm just going to put my body, and in body I'm going to make a geometry folder. Oh, I'm actually going to, there we go. Sure, I'll just call it geo because it's not letting me change that. And then I'm going to call a mat for material. So inside geo for my geometry, I'm going to go inside there and go to import, and then I'm going to bring my, something I didn't do in fact is I didn't lay the model on its face before bringing it in, so I will have to actually rotate my model round before I bring it in, well, when I bring it in. So go to here and I will go to my OBJs, there we go, body G. Okay, yeah, I'm just going to import all. So this is going to come in, and it's also going to carry a material with it, which I don't want, but we're going to use it anyway for just to show. So there we go. So there we go. So yeah, for, because Unreal flips its axis, its forward axis is actually the y-axis, and its up axis is actually the z-axis. It uses the aviation style of axis. I would have to actually put him on his face to bring him in, but there's our character there. Let's rotate him around so actually he's facing. Oh, there we go. There we go. There we go. There we go. So now I've got this material it gets brought in with. I don't want this, I'm actually going to delete it. Force delete. This is going to go back to its checkerboard pattern. If I go up to content, back into body and into matte, this is where I'm actually going to put my textures and my materials. So inside here I'm going to go to import, and then here I'm going to find my body N. There we go. So I can't just drag and apply this to my model. I've actually got to set up a material to actually use this sort of stuff. So I'm going to right click again inside here, and then I'm going to go to material here, and this is going to make a new material. So I'm going to call this body underscore matte, like that. So that'll create a blank material which I can then click and drag onto my model. So nothing looks like it's changed, but it's just got the new material applied to it. Right, so we're going to double click this, and that's going to open up our material editor, which I'm going to dock. There we go. So this is our material, and now I'm going to set up a very basic material just for our model. So right clicking, I want to bring in a flat color, and a flat color can be brought in using a couple of different ways, but the way I'm going to be using it is by using something called a Vector3 Constant. And a Vector3 Constant is basically just a flat color generator. It uses 3 vectors, and all you need to think about in this case is a vector is red, blue, green. It's the RGB color value. So inside. So remember, I'm just right clicking to bring up this menu, and then inside the search at the top, I'm just going to start typing in constant, and then that's all the different words which have cons in it, and then you can see there, third one down, const3 vector. Bring that up, and that's going to bring up this box. And with that box selected, you can see here that I've got material expression and a material description expression. So inside this constant, I'm going to double click that, and then it's going to bring up a color wheel, and I'm going to pick a, a very, skin color like that. So that's now my flat skin color, and I'm actually going to go to this little white circle here, and I'm actually going to drag that, click and drag that out, and you see place new node, and I'm going to plug that into my base color. So now that is going to be the color of my object. But if we go back to our scene, nothing's happened yet. That's because I've not actually saved this material. So I'm going to have to go up to there and save. And then I'll go back to my default scene. There we go. You can see that now our model has this lovely skin tone on it. Very nice. But then we've not got any of this definition that we wanted to bring out. So back to our body map. We're now going to bring in a normal map to go into our normal map generator. But we're going to bring this in by using something called a texture sample node. Texture sample node. So right clicking again, I'm going to type in texture, and then S for textures, and then you'll see somewhere in here we're going to get texture, and then down here we've got texture sample. Click on that, and then it's going to bring up this box, and this is exactly the same sort of deal as this constant box up here. First things first, I'm just going to drag the white dot, the white circle, and plug that into my normal, but then it's going to say, oh, nothing's inside the input. So I'm going to have to actually have something inside this. So with this selected, I've got all this new group of options here, and the one I want is down here in texture where it says none. I can now plug in my normal map into here by clicking on this little none drop down, or in this case drop up, and then finding my normal map in here. Now this is my normal map, but you can search, if you know the name of your asset, you can search it here, but I know this one is mine. So click that. It looks super intense in here, don't worry about that, it's just a preview thing. Hit apply, and then boom. So on this little ball thing here, you can see that there is actually some definition if we put a plate. There we go. So you can actually see our normal map has actually been applied there. So if we go back to our scene, you see that our model has a lot more detail in it now. Our model has more defined pectorals. The face is coming through. You can't necessarily see any of these horrible normal aberrations that were cropping up, which is great. You can see the oblique information there. You can see this little, I've made an anatomical, purposefully made an anatomical error there just to pick up this little ridge here. But you can see that's all coming now. So if we just build a scene, this is now just redoing the lights, make sure everything looks really nice. Pop, there we go, and then I can play this. Ooh, that's loud. And that's our object in the scene. So obviously this is a very basic run through of just taking the information out, but you can do this with everything. You can do this with static mesh objects, with environmental objects, with character objects, props, so many different things. And all you need to do is have your high resolution and then a low resolution version to project down that information on, making sure that low resolution has first been UV'd, and then Bob your uncle. Then you've got your normal map. You can take that into Unreal with stuff like low resolution or like high resolution floor assets like rocks, rock pathing or pebbles or tiles or anything like that. It's super easy to do that sort of stuff because all you do is to get your high resolution model, as long as it's a square, get a standard square, one polygon template, subdivide that so it's quite dense, project that down, take that back to the normal subdivision level, take that normal map, bring it in here, and then boom, that's your normal done. And then if you want to, you can take all that colour information, displacement information, ambient occlusion information, and then, you know, that's Zbrush doing a lot of work for you. Cool. So then that's the process of just bringing something remeshed, unwrapped, projected down into Unreal. So if you have any questions, find me an email, and I'll get back to them as soon as I can. Thank you.